Alrighty, guys. It looks like we are live again. It has been a couple of weeks, which is the frequency that we're doing these live streams with. I'm joined, as usual, by my friend Matt and Growth Clinic mentor. Hello, Matt.
Anton, good to see you.
Your camera is looking better and better every single time we do this. You've got a whole professional studio set up out there.
Maybe the camera is. I'm not sure about myself, but at least if the camera and the quality is looking better, then I'll take what I can get.
Yeah, that's right. Well, guys, today we're going to be discussing a good few couple of things. And per usual, in the beginning, I'm going to mention that this is a Growth Clinic Live, where we discuss certain insights and trends into what's happening out there in the world, so we can all be educated and ready for what's coming tomorrow. And so we can do this all together because we're essentially building a community of growth-minded people here. So watch us on YouTube, Facebook, very soon on TikTok and LinkedIn. So without further ado, Matt, are we all set? Ready to get started?
Let's do it. Let's get into it. Let's do it.
Let's go. Let's
grow together.
All right, guys. So let me see. Let me remind you about a couple of things. So there's quite a few resources that we are putting together. So besides the fact that we're here, we're researching some subjects. We're talking to people that are smarter than us about certain things and learning from them, and then kind of relaying information to you. We're also putting some resources together. So a good resource would be Growth Clinic's website. Let me go ahead and show it to you real quick. This is what it looks like. We are finishing it up. So if you log into your profile, you're going to see a couple of resources out here. So it's going to say your name right here and all. One of them is news. I highly encourage you guys to click on the news section. And this is where you're going to see, so this is the dashboard. I think we've mentioned this before, but let me focus on the news today. I've got quite a few tabs open, as you can see, with all the live streaming as well going on. So this is where you guys can find all the useful news, relevant news, essentially, to what's happening in our economy, global economy, things like that. So there's a robust archive here of just all kinds of stuff. So just keep checking that, and yeah, let us know if there's anything out there that we're missing, and we'll be happy to kind of add it in. There's some resource section out there. So anyway, just go check it out. We're working hard on putting something together for you.
Great articles again, Anton. That's why I love to go out there, check out the articles. You always pick some winners out there, that ones that dive a little bit deeper into the topics there. So love going out there to check out the articles, and yeah, it's really shaping up here.
Yeah, definitely. And so
it's like, guys, what a news week too, right? Like,
yeah,
that's
we're gonna get to this, right?
Like it's just more and more.
Yeah. So, and also starting next week, we're going to be sending out a newsletter. So everybody who has been signed up for Chattanooga Marketing Clinic, which is the old name for Growth Clinic, Chattanooga Growth Clinic, you guys will be receiving that newsletter with a weekly insight. So wait and see until that happens, and let us know if you guys like it or not. So again, without further ado, unless Matt, unless you have anything else in mind as far as announcements, organizational stuff, and all, let's go ahead and jump into.
Let's do it.
Let's go. All right, so Matt, it's been a week, right?
Yeah,
it's been a crazy week when it comes to the news and all.
Yeah. I just keep staying up like later and later at night, it seems like, right? Like I feel like I try to get most of the news in, but it's just like it's keeping me up later and later here. I think I'm up to about 2 o'clock or so at night here, and just can't keep up with it. It's hard to put it all together. That can happen when you're kind of in a downturn, recession, a lot of geopolitical things going on right now. I'm sure I'm not the only one where it's kind of unsettling, all the different things that are going on, and trying to try to get control of what's going on there. But you just got to kind of roll with it sometimes, take what you can get. And yeah, hopefully we can catch a few people up to speed on a few of the topics, but we know there's a lot of big things out there, but let's pick some of the ones that we found particularly interesting to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. And so again, you cannot not miss the fact that there's inflation going on out there, right? And so we see again over and over and over our fancy titles going up. Over and over and over, Fed is just being reminding us about that, or educating us on how it all's going to end. And they're saying hard landing. That's the term that they've been using, hard landing, where it's going to be, yeah, they missed inflation. And so they're going very aggressively now. And so if you look at the inflation numbers as of today, this is what they look like. Hide this little title here. So yeah, they're working pretty hard as far as taming it down. So the interest rates are going up. That's being part of it. So they're limiting the money supply, which is kind of like how their way to get our dollar to be stronger, right? Which is important. And also, you're when you go to the grocery store, you're not being scared out of the store by the prices, things like that. So inflation is a very important metric when it comes to stability of economy. So inflation is up. It's not as high as it is in Europe. For example, in the UK, the inflation is 9.1, with growth rates of economies like super low, like less than the US one. So they cannot afford limit their money supply because that's going to slow down their economy quite significantly. So they're kind of stuck in a high inflation thing. And so the whole euro area is also very similar to that. So let's wait and see what that's going to bring, there with all the oil, with all the Russian war situation. It's so if you watch us and you live in Britain, Europe, Germany, yeah, let's keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening out there. But as far as so Matt, you and I, we talk about it all the time, right? So let's look at what the Fed's interest rate looks like as of today, right? So we heard they just increased their interest rate from 0.75% up, right? So we're at 1.75. And compared to where we used to be in the beginning of the year, I mean, we're almost zero, right? 0.25. That's extremely low Fed's rate, right? Discount rate. Now, but here's the thing, and I like how Matt is always kind of bringing this subject up, and you always say like, hold on, but isn't it used to be like a whole lot higher than that? Why are we all kind of being paranoid all of a sudden? So, and that's the interesting part. So if you look at the say 25 year scale here, so yeah, this is where we are currently, and this is where we've been prior to 2020. So we were at 2 point something, and so essentially look at back in pre-08 times, right? We were at 5.5, I think, or 5.75.
Yeah.
We're above 6 in 2021, 2022, something like that. And if you look at the max rates, I mean, in 1980s,
oh my gosh,
the Fed's interest rate was, I mean, extremely high, 20%. I mean, that's like a credit card API, APR, right there.
I know you like maybe it was just cheaper to buy a house on your credit card, right? If you had that limit, it's insane to think about that interest rates could ever be that high. But that's why I tend to be a little bit more hawkish on these issues, right? And inflation can be a very political driven thing, right? Because pretty much if you're a politician, you always want cheap interest rates, right? You want cheap money. You want businesses growing, like that's just your default position there. But if things start to heat up too much, right, things get very uncomfortable, real estate goes up. You saw that in the chart, right? But going into 2008, real estate was heating up, money was easy to get, people, running up the prices of homes, right? Big issues there, right? Hit the brakes, drop the interest rates down. That's where it's been kind of interesting that interest rates stayed that low for that long. 2008, 2016, inflation was low, GDP was low, moderate, low single digits. But then, yeah, pre-COVID, you saw that start to ratchet up, right? With the interest rates, things were heating up, right? We were rocking and rolling, right? Going into 2019, going into 2020, right? When COVID hit, all right, drop the rates again. So it's nice when the Fed can have a little bit of reserve if they need to drop the interest rates to do something to stimulate the economy again. So this shouldn't necessarily be looked at as unhealthy long term. It's just, hey, the party is over. It's going to return hopefully more back to normal, right? Some of the forecasts for inflation here, some of the surveys that came out, fairly moderate. The 3-year kind of dropped a little bit lower. Short term, yeah, the consensus going into tomorrow, the rates get released. 8.8% is kind of the consensus number. So that'll be another 40-year record. So yeah, the Fed needs to act. It's pretty interesting what the Fed does versus what they say, because what they say matters. It moves the market. It moves decisions. It's kind of like threatening to hit somebody, right? Like, I am going to hit you in the face. I haven't actually swung yet, but you might be like, hey, okay, all right, I'm going to back off here, right? You haven't actually taken that action yet, and all right, maybe you don't need to hit him. Maybe you just need to give him a little friendly tap, friendly punch there.
Friendly
But it
punch, yeah.
moves the market, so that's where it's interesting to see what the Fed says when they are a little bit more aggressive in their verbiage, and how much of a heads up that they give on the views, because consensus looks like could be 0.75% again here. What is that, next week?
I think it's
Couple
going to
weeks
happen, right?
here.
I think it's going
Two
to happen.
weeks. It might be a half. It could be even more. But that's where I think it's important to see what comes out in the numbers tomorrow. 8.8%. Okay, that's still pretty high, but it's not getting out of control. So they've got a couple weeks, right? They talk about it, right? They release things publicly out there about it. So let's see how that plays out. But
yeah, exactly. And so why high interest rates are bad for economy, right? We just mentioned a little bit about how it used to be and things like that. But think about it this way: why the slowdown in the economy? Well, if the interest rates are pretty low, right, and you are thinking about buying a piece of equipment, right, to expand your manufacturing capacity, so to say, right? Then you say, well, the capital is cheap. I can afford it. I mean, that's kind of fits right into my margin of the product that I'm selling. Yeah, I'm going to go in and increase my capacity and get that additional piece of equipment, and that's gonna serve you even further. And so, somebody manufactures a piece of equipment, right? Somebody sells you that service. So economy keeps going. But then when the interest rates are pretty high, you're thinking, shoot, my margin is already pretty tight, and you're here asking me to invest some more. I just, it's just, no, I'm going to wait. In fact, my fridge is still fine. I don't need a new fridge. I'm going to call the guy who fixes them. And so we're going to keep growing that part of the economy, but just not the investment part. So the high interest rates are always kind of signal lower investment ratios. And again, investments is what kind of propels economy forward. But the positive thing is the dollar is stronger, right, Matt? So you like saying that. So if you go to Europe and you exchange dollars for euros, I mean, you get a little bit more money these days, and so your dollar gets you just a little further. So there's a benefit to strong currency as well. So
yeah, 1-to-1 almost now, right, versus the euro there.
Yeah.
That's been pretty unusual versus a lot of Korea. It's gone up about 20% or so. So that's what's kind of interesting. Some of the strength of the U.S. dollar, that can be very good because, hey, we can buy things internationally, for less, but it can hurt you when you're trying to export things to other countries, right? And now your prices just went up. So little give and take there, but overall, you want to have typically your country's currency kind of continue to grow and be stronger relative to other currencies. So interesting to see that out there. I didn't realize against how many different currencies you're seeing the US dollar strengthen. That gives more assurance to the rest of the world that, hey, maybe the US is a good place to put their money, right? If that currency is going to kind of continue to be strong to strengthen. So the US wants to continue that leadership for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So, and just another factor, we're always kind of talk about disruptors first, so to say. That's we're here all into positive thinking, right? But another factor that we keep seeing like recirculating back, and that's our COVID-19, right? We're in 2022, and we're still talking about COVID-19. 19 is the year when it got started, right? That was a naming for it. So imagine there's been basically 2.5, 3 years or so into this whole news cycle of COVID is out again. A lot of people I know have been sick. My mom, my grandma, me myself. I feel like a week ago I had something weird for 3 days. People report stomach issues while they're sick now. So again, disclaimer: this information is not designed to treat or diagnose any sort of medical conditions. But again, that's what I'm anecdotal kind of evidence. People say stomach issues.
That's where I just got Yeah, just got a text from a close family member there. My brother as well too, from where he works at there. Right, they've got a lot of patients there. They're seeing the same things with a lot of the same symptoms actually that you're talking about as well too. So everybody watch it, stay healthy. People are back at it, right? It's pretty clear that people are getting out there, record travel again, right, relative to where it was before. So people have been putting off trips and spending money for a long time. So another factor, right, for why they may want to, hopefully the economy holds up because people still want to spend.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And so, by the way, guys, as we're talking, I'm looking at the comments here. So if you guys have any sort of live questions, things like that, we're happy to kind of pivot our conversation and answer questions. Or if you guys have any sort of insights, tell us a little bit about your situation and things like that. So put a thumbs up out there. I see a couple people already did that. And so, but yeah, and so speaking about all this negative stuff, right? So how do we stay positive, Matt? What's the deal, and how do we remain? I mean, it's important for us to keep thinking positively and have a positive outlook for when it comes to tomorrow, right? How do we do this? What's the
Yeah.
deal?
Yeah. Well, I think it's recognizing first that we're programmed to be negative, right? You think about it just from kind of default evolutionary type standpoint there, like what's going to hurt you are negative things, right? So you're always on the lookout for what could go wrong, what could happen to you, and that can be contagious as well too, right? So you may start to develop that kind of pessimistic type attitude because you look around, see what's going on in the world, like there's a lot of bad things going on, but there's also a ton of amazing things going on right around the world too, right? Every single day at home, joy that we have, whether it's going to get a cup of coffee, just spending time with family. There's a lot of positivity as well too. So I think it's recognizing first, hey, our brains are wired to be negative, so you can fall back into that on many occasions. It's easy to do. Um, it's a defensive type mechanism, right? You really have to proactively wire your brain to be positive, right? Like it takes action to kind of counter some of those negative thoughts. We may have just been brought up that way, right? With a family that's maybe a little bit more conservative or less confident in some areas, right? Or they're always trying to protect you, right? Parents are always trying to protect their kids, but is that always a good thing to do, or do people kind of have to experience some of that negativity, overcome it, right? Develop that positive attitude. So, um, best way I know of that I've seen come across, keep seeing it time after time, is stop complaining, right? Like it might seem easy, but stop complaining. And I've tried to do this exercise a few times, and it can be difficult, right? And there's different types of complaining, and you got to separate out what's complaining and what's just kind of what's just kind of venting occasionally, right? Like, hey guys, like I'm kind of having a challenge here on some things, and here's what's going on, and thanks for listening. That's very different than compulsive type complaining, right?
Hmm.
Grumbling, right? Catch yourself. Are you fussing over the weather constantly? Is the traffic, oh, the traffic was so bad today, right? That's why I'm late to work. So that's that's how you can kind of check yourself there. So, and complaining is contagious. So if you're in around an environment, right, where people are complaining, you're more likely to do that as well too. You just are, right? So that's why it's so important, right, to surround yourself with people that aren't, or have very direct conversations with them where I, you know I hear you complaining a lot. I know it's not helpful for you. How can I help you, right? Get to a point where, like, how can we turn these complaints around to positive action? I've had that at work a lot of times where it's like, I'll catch myself like, hey, we're complaining a lot here. Let's stop when that happens. And now, how can we turn that into a positive? How can we take action, right, to change that? So, a little technique out there. It's kind of fun. It's just putting a rubber band around your wrist, and when you find yourself complaining, take a good whack, snap at it, right? The first few times, it's like, yeah, you're going to have kind of a laugh and a chuckle while you do it, think it's kind of funny. But after a while, you start snapping yourself. You're like, all right, your brain's like, all right, maybe I don't exactly like this. Good reminder, stop. I'm complaining. Let's shift gears. Let's figure out how to get more positive. So that's just, yeah, couple ideas there on how we can try and be more positive.
Yeah, definitely. And so, and,
Yeah.
and if I was to add my 2 cents as far as being positive, staying positive, I'm all about. I've noticed that I feel more positive. I feel more peaceful, more at ease when I pre-think, or I pre-plan a
Mm.
situation. Right? You kind of feel a bit more
Mm.
in control. You feel like a bit more certain about what's coming. Things like that. And so I like this. It's a book. I think it's called Six Thinking Hats. Let me show you a screenshot of. Here's what it's talking about. It's talking about this 6 different thinking hats, right? And so there's a yellow, green, red, white, black, blue. So the yellow one is basically saying, hey, you need to put this hat on when you want to be like, you are the positivity, right? So think about like
Mm.
starting something. Think about like, hey guys,
Mm-hmm.
how about we do this? Like, you are the positivity. So put that hat on and be positive. I mean, just be positive, like Matt was saying, because that's important. That's how you get certain things started. That's that passion that kind of drives the initial start towards something, right? But then also think about those the other ones. The green hat is creativity. So switch your hat and into creativity and be like, hey guys, let's be creative here for just a split second. Like, is there
Mm.
anything new that we can come up with? Is there anything that we can improve here? Let's get creative, right? And Matt talks a lot about the creative economy and kind of go and create something. Elon Musk says, if you don't create stuff, there is no stuff. So be creative. Go figure something out. So that's a second hat. The third one is red hat, right? So that's emotions, right? Be emotion. I mean, like, connect with other people. Emotion is something that's so, like, kind of sometimes running behind the scenes, so to say, but it's so vital, so important, and it's like a primary thing when it comes to human connection, right? So then the next one is white hat, right? White is data. It's boring. It's white piece of paper. Like, get down to numbers, analyze things, and pre-plan, and make sure your, like, balance sheet, your checkbook is all balanced, right? Because trust me, if that
Mm-hmm.
white piece of paper is not going to be balanced, like, you're not going to be positive at the end of the day. So
Right.
it's kind of like planning. So plan, data, right? Black hat is the, here it's called downside, but in the book it's actually called risks. So put the black hat on and think of risks. And that's the part. See, when I think of something, when I pre-think certain risks, when I think of like something that can go bad, and I plan, like, I've got a scenario for the plan.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a plan B and plan Z in case something falls apart. And then I feel more positive about the whole thing because, right, because there's something in place. Like, if I fall to the right, there's a mat out there that I can kind of land on. If there's something on the left, like, if I fall on the left, like, you kind of, like, you walk this tightrope, but even if something happens, I mean, you're still gonna be fine. So you feel more positive, right? And to just kind of wrap this whole up, the last one is blue hat. Blue hat is that's my favorite, the process, right? So design the process, establish the process, create the method that will bring you consistent results, predictable results every single time. So anyway, that's my 2 cents as far as that's how I try to be positive. Like, if
Oh, that's
you
great, Anton. And that
other
was
things.
that was super noticeable. Like when I first met you, as far as like, yeah, I would start complaining, and I'm like, why isn't this guy complaining too? Right? But it's like you always had that positive attitude, but positivity is also infectious as well, too, right? And makes people stop to be like, okay, maybe I don't want to gossip or be negative, around this person, this environment. That's not how they're going to respond favorably. So, and another thing is, it's okay, like you said, to share that emotion, part of the emotion, with others. So, okay, traffic was bad. You came into work, you were late, you're frustrated. It's all right to come into a team meeting, right? And say, thanks for your patience. Um, it, don't complain about the traffic itself, but say, sorry guys, I'm a little bit frustrated today. Um, I value myself as far as being somebody that's always like prompt and on time, but it didn't happen today, and then move on, right? So it's kind of, you're allowing people into the insight of uh, yeah, I'm a little bit frustrated, but I'm not going to complain about a bunch of things. It's
Yeah.
just I'm sharing with you that here's kind of the situation I'm in. I'm frustrated because I value being on time and
Hmm.
I appreciate your time for coming to this meeting and I was late. So there's just different ways to kind of still set that up and frame that and turn it into a positive situation.
Yeah, 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 definitely, definitely. And just remember, guys, that people want to be around other positive individuals, right? So if you are
Mhm.
positive, you attract the energy that you carry around. Just think of that. So being positive, you want to be surrounded by more positive people. Well, guess what? Be positive, right? It's really that simple. All right, let's go. Let's kind of move through our news here, our insights, so to say, and let's go and jump into the next one. And so, in the next piece of kind of insight that we wanted to mention to you guys is it's kind of an interesting one. So we hear a lot about people resign from their work, right, and then kind of going into certain things. Retirement has been one, right? So you reach a certain age, and you have an option, right? You can continue working,
Mhm.
or you can go and play golf. So let's call it playing golf. So let me show you a piece of information here. This is kind of interesting. So here's a graph of retirement population in the U.S. Right. So if you notice right here, right at 2020, right, you see a sudden increase in that population. So people say, you know what, all this stuff is happening out there. I'm just gonna go and play golf, so to say, right? And or do whatever you need to do. You've earned it, So and then all of a sudden we see this decrease here slightly, and then slight decrease, and then we see that growth rate, that trend is actually changing here in just recent couple of months. So what does that mean? So when some of these folks that have reached certain age, say 60, 65 years old, right, they're probably looking at their portfolios right now, which is probably a good chunk of it is in stock market is down. They're looking at their balances and they're saying, shoot, my retirement doesn't look as good as I thought it is. And on top of that, they probably go to grocery stores and they keep getting certain services, their house fixed, and they're like, shoot, everything's getting more expensive. So I have less money and everything's more expensive. Let me, and this is what we see as a trend right now, let me go back to work. So what does it mean? Again, let's kind of draw some positive things out of this, and like, this is the trend and this is what's happening out there. And Matt, what's your thoughts? Like, what is that an opportunity? Is that a good
Yeah.
thing? Is that a bad thing? How can we use this to our good?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that observation is correct here, where people are looking at their portfolios. A lot of people, probably even people in their 40s, 50s, that were like, you know what? I've got a lot of options here. Don't really have to go back to work, or I could like take off, maybe go out on my own. I saw this in 2008 when I was working at Kellogg Company. A lot of people there were like, shoot, like I was just about ready to retire, and my portfolio just got whacked. Right. And okay, maybe I better stay in the game here and keep it going. So that's true across the board. I mean, that's true of people I know in their 30s that were like, "Hey, I was set up pretty well here, but crypto got, hammered, stocks got hammered. All right, now I'm going to have to get back to it there." So, I guess a couple observations there will be, where are they going to come back into the workforce? Because obviously there are a ton of open positions where, hey, you just want a job, a little, kind of pay the mortgage, a few extra things, right? You could jump back into the workforce there. Are they going to be able to return, let's say, to the more technical side of things, right? Or, uh, the Zoom meetings and the, creator type economy, right? Where they're expected to create content. Not so sure, right? That may be a little bit more of a challenge for them to come in. But, fortunately, it feels like there's optionality in the market right now to return. And, you can't underestimate, right, the amount of wisdom and experience older people
Mm-hmm.
have, right? As you age, hopefully you're an individual that continues to learn, to become wiser, right? You've seen different difficulties in the past and you know how to address that. So that'll be interesting. Like, hey, where are they going to come back in to the economy, right? Like, where do you think, Anton?
Well, and I was just gonna say, have you guys watched this movie? It's called Intern, right? What's his name? What's the guy's name? The actor. It's
Yeah, De Niro,
De
Robert De
Niro,
Niro.
Anna
Yeah,
Hathaway and De Niro. And so the guy
yeah,
comes back from retirement because he's just bored. He cannot be at home for that long. And this young girl, she's running this e-commerce company. She hires him as an intern, right? And that's where the title for the movie comes in. And then he ends up being a guy who worked in the factory where she's located now, except for that factory was making like yellow books or something like that. And he ends up being so instrumental into what she does, and he kind of becomes her mentor, a coach, so to say, executive, personal. He saves her marriage and stuff like that. But so I'm just thinking, how many more of like retired folks out there who really don't mind, based on the data we're showing you, they really don't mind to come in for a few hours per week in office, make a little extra money. Is there value, like Matt said, is there a value they can bring to the table? And watch the movie. If that
yeah.
just thinking about that doesn't help you, watch a movie and you'll see you can develop some beautiful relationship with some of those people. You can teach them Zooms and OBSs and a bunch of other tools and but they will teach you people skills. They will teach you how to do business because they've done it. So again, those folks are out there. Some of them are great tools and assets for your company. So hire a part-time, highly qualified executive coach, and it'll be a win-win situation for both of you. So that's kind of like that's how I think about this as an opportunity. Yeah.
It's part of the gig economy as well too, right? Whereas before it was kind of expected that, hey, unless you're full time with my company, you're kind of a trader, right? Or you're not really fitting in full time. But it feels like there's a lot more opportunities for individuals to kind of jump back in half time, contracted, flexible type format,
Yep.
right? Where they don't physically even need to be there. So maybe they've already kind of at that retirement home or retirement dream home that they have in Florida or somewhere
Hmm.
else,
Hmm.
and maybe they're only back in that around the headquarters 3 months out of the year, right? But I think you can't underestimate, right, the opportunities that could be out there since COVID's happened and how retirees could get back into the workforce. So
Yeah.
definitely, if you're thinking about that, a little bit older, hey, that's a great way to scale a company is with people that actually have been there, done that. They have the scars, the battle scars, right, to prove it, and can help save you from a lot of mistakes there, as well as a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say it's such an important thing to develop a balanced team, right? So think
Mhm.
about it. The component that you have been missing is out there and it could quite possibly be open for a part-time position. So, and it could be just a wonderful experience. So we highly encourage you guys to do that. So let's jump into let's kind of keep moving because we have a couple of things
Yeah,
we still want to kind of talk
let's
about
do it.
here. So let's jump into the next piece of news here, guys. And this is corporate layoffs and opportunities. Again, you see how we're trying to kind of take every more or less kind of negative piece of news out there and kind of find an opportunity there. And I think that's definitely a sign of kind of growth or people who kind of strive to be growth minded to say, okay, something is happening. Like COVID started right in 2020. Is there an opportunity? And people who thought that way, they've made some money, right, on COVID when it started. So corporate layoffs, Matt, any opportunities there? Like, what are we not thinking about?
Yeah. Well, latest numbers there were showing, I think they're probably understated here, but about 28,000 right in the tech industry that are laid off. You
Hmm.
see a lot of postings from, friends, people, LinkedIn, right? Like they're walking around kind of Silicon Valley, these places that used to be very popular with startups, and they're not popular places to be anymore, right? They don't see people around there. So 28,000 people, but this is kind of higher tech area, right? These are very skilled, in demand individuals that previously were probably almost impossible to get, right? So they're looking for new opportunities. Maybe they were locked in before, right? Of coming into work at a certain location in a very expensive city, And now maybe there's some flexibility to
Hmm.
snag them either full time or part time or on a contracted basis on something that you would never have been able to get them in the past. So I think there's some new opportunities there. Like I said, you kind of have to be cautious to be too optimistic going into a recession, because past experience, right, going through those is people try on the way down, right, to see the positive, but uh, overall, right, there could be some macro trends there. But my belief is, hey, U.S. economy, there's still some significant strength behind it. And when you're looking at growing, scaling up a business, a startup, this is when those businesses, right, of the future that are going to do well, this is exactly when they get started. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity to pick off some of that skilled labor.
Yeah, some of the talent that's now probably is going to be looking for jobs. But let's also look at the
Mhm.
opposite side of that. It's at the flip side of that coin. And so companies cannot afford. So they're saying, hey, we could build a particular feature to our software, say, right?
Mm,
But we can't afford these guys anymore, right? The interest rates are pretty high. We can't just like
mm,
the capital is not cheap anymore.
mhm,
Now we can't afford to build it in house, but as an opportunity, can we build it outsourced? Can we find an expertise? Can you be that expertise and say, hey, I'll build it for you half the price? Because again, research shows that if you do a particular feature, particular thing with an outside consultant, at times it's there's a percentage out there. I can bring it next time when we talk about it, but it's sometimes it's cheaper, right? Sometimes these
mm,
companies are optimized for a particular piece of operation that you're needing versus you got to bring skilled people, train them for a particular situation and a feature to be built. Then they build it. Then you have to stick around and things like that. So where outside outsourced consultant or agency comes in, or design agency, creative agency, software agency, any sort of company that builds things, creates things, they can do it for less. And so that's an opportunity for you if you are that company. So send out a bunch of proposals. This could be your opportunity, because these features, these software, these websites still need to be built, right? The videos need to be shot. The accounting still needs to be made. It's just all going to be a bit more towards outsourced basis versus in-house. So again, I
mhm.
think there's a great opportunity. So yeah, what's your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? And kind of start there. Let's see. All right, and so again, just to kind of like as a wrap up to our news here, as Matt, what's your thoughts? We've been discussing for last 2 or 3 times here all the trends that are happening in the economy, right? So how does this external environment affect local businesses, right, or mid-sized businesses, small to mid-sized businesses? What kind of environment are we in? What should we be watching out? Is there any sort of like an internal stress being built in us, and how do we deal with it?
Well, pretty broad question there, right? That could obviously, depending on your particular business, right, how you're going to work through this. It could be a massive opportunity for you, right? Depending on the business that you're in right now, it might be extremely difficult. You might have already been low on cash or struggling, or you were taking every single dollar, reinvesting it back in, right, hoping that that would continue. So I think that's where, they say in the finance side of things with CFOs, like they need to have good kind of like antennae for what's going on around you, right? And that ability to look around the corner in the future, right, to kind of see what's there. And that's where it's, kind of feeling what's going on in your market and your, economy that you operate in, right, on your playing field. Uh, to see, hey, do I need to pull back, or can I dial it up a little bit, right? Do I want to go ahead and make that investment? Equipment for the next 3 years, I can get a good interest rate going, right? You still see promotional rates out there with different banks and so forth. So maybe you do want to lean in, right? If you've been able to build up some of those cash reserves, and you can see an opportunity to exploit your competition. I'm traveling up here in Michigan here this week, and locally there have been 20 cannabis businesses that have been created, and these are large buildings, very nice buildings. I always get excited because I think it's going to be this like wonderful restaurant, and no, it's another cannabis
CBD
now that
place.
that's been more legalized, right, in Michigan here, right. But I just saw on the news today a couple. They have a couple locations around here, a more popular one, kind of nationally in different states operating, right, that they just kind of suddenly closed up, right? There's a lot of competition out there. A lot of people made some large bets, and maybe those just aren't really paying off, right, in the way that they expected. So there might be that opportunity, right, to see some consolidation out there in the market, or an opportunity to, hey, that was a nice building that you just dropped a lot of money into. Not really a lot of other buyers going on right now. It looks like your business, that company maybe just wants to wrap up their affairs and get out and, take sale price on a building. So it's just being opportunistic, right? Always being opportunistic, as an entrepreneur, to see does this make sense in the long run to do this,
Mm-hmm.
right? You shouldn't be shifting your strategy on a daily basis, right?
Mm-hmm.
You should have a plan out there. Does that make financial sense? And hopefully go execute it.
Yeah, and as long as you can carry it through times like these, right, and everything what's coming, again, with interest rates going up, we know economy is not going to be flourishing as it used to. Let's just put it this way: the Fed uses the term "hard landing," so to tell you something. But so hopefully you can carry that strategy, like Matt is saying, through those times. And I think if certain things needs to be put on pause because again that requires an extra investment, things like that, that's totally fine. I mean, as long as you carry forward that main vision, that main product, that main iteration, sometimes cutting things off is I think Matt, you referenced like Elon Musk was giving an interview where he said if you keep thinking about a particular feature and it's taking you too much time, just delete that feature, right? Kind of like keep moving forward, and that's a very much like lean approach to get the product to market as soon as possible, because you will see a whole new set of issues and problems with the things that you never thought about. And so just keep carrying forward with that main strategy, and hopefully that strategic kind of overview could be adjusted for the times that we live in. But yeah, we gotta stay positive. We gotta keep carrying on, and it's just and then sometimes doing it together and just kind of bouncing these ideas off of each other. I mean, that sometimes is what kind of helps us go through situations like on a personal level, right? Since we're all kind of people here. But yeah, so no, I think you're 100% right. We're living in pretty interesting times, and I think we're becoming like this generation of, especially younger generation of entrepreneurs. I mean, they're not going to be softies. They've went through '08. They've gone through COVID. They're going through this whole inflation, and who knows what's going to happen in the next 6 to 9 months. If you can go through these times and with a smile, I mean, you're unstoppable, right? You are unstoppable. So hopefully that's gonna help you grow and develop certain skills. All right. So as far as the news, as far as the insights, that's kind of like all we wanted to bring to you guys today. We always think of relevant trends, right? We know you guys watch news. We know we're all consumed by the news cycles and things like that. But we're here trying to bring something that we can analyze and kind of bounce again off of each other and say, is this important? Is it relevant? Am I not seeing something? Or can I use this as an opportunity? Like what we discussed a couple of things earlier. So, and then let's go into the question part of our live stream, and the one question that I keep receiving. So let's go ahead and play our fancy title. All right, and by the way, another piece of feedback. Tell us if those titles are a little too much. Right, so we're just having kind of like a peaceful conversation here. All of a sudden, all these kind of drums pop up and everything. So let us know what you think about those titles, if we need to change them up, and or if, to the opposite, maybe it brings a certain positivity, certain beat to it.
Well, talking about titles there, I like the title on your shirt there, Anton. That's looking pretty fancy there. That been working on some swag there. Check that out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, it's going to
jealous.
be available fairly soon. So we're working on that. You'll see a couple of things. I can show you really just a few. This is like water bottles, things like that, power banks, shirts. So if you need it today, let me know. If not, then just kind of stick around and we'll let you know. But yeah, thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
Nice.
I got a couple of those
Nice.
shirts for you as well. So.
All right.
But all right. So as far as questions, so Matt, I don't know if you're the same way, but I keep talking to people. Maybe it's because I keep asking that same question to them. I say, do you have hard time, or how's your notes organization? Do you organize your knowledge in an effective way? And I keep receiving the same answer, kind of like that puzzled look, and they're like, you know what? I've got a bunch of notes, but I mean, don't even ask me how easy it is to find stuff there. And it all ends up being in our brains. Here's what research says, guys. Our brains are really, really good, and it's optimized for analysis, for calculation, right? So if I lay 10 different cards in front of you and I ask you a bunch of questions, what's similar? What's different about these cards? Can you compare these two and these three? You're going to be really quick. And in fact, AI struggles with that, and we keep training computers on that. Our brain is like, in a snap of a split second, we recognize things, we see patterns and stuff like that. So we're good at calculation and analysis. Our brains are really bad at memory. Maybe it's with the amount of information that's being thrown at us on a daily basis. We're consuming what? I think you mentioned a couple times, like 34 gig of gigabytes of data, like visually, audio, news. I mean, just everything just kind of thrown at us in terms of information.
Yeah, a ton.
And how do we organize our knowledge? How do we organize our memory? And so there's this thing out there that people keep talking about, and they give it a name, second brain, right? And if you extrapolate this concept into companies, into small businesses, into mid-sized businesses, a corporate sector, let's give it a different term, knowledge base, right? So imagine there is a centralized location where you can deposit all of your knowledge, all of the tiny bits of knowledge. And here's the thing about also the organization of your knowledge. Our thoughts are sporadic, are chaotic, right? Think about it. Maybe in the time that you are listening to this, you probably thought about walking a dog, taking the trash out, thinking about Matt's hair, thinking about these titles, thinking about our thoughts are so random, right? And so that's our thoughts. But our communication is linear, right? When we communicate, we choose a certain sequence to our words, we put them sequentially, and we communicate. Now, that's where that struggle of communication comes in, and that's where coding, decoding issues arise and stuff like that. So second brain deals with that particular problem. There's a bunch of chaos that's being turned into an organized set of organized knowledge, so to say. It could be down on a personal level, it could be down on a knowledge base corporate kind of level. So I'm pretty excited about it because in the past, I would say, month or so, I have been pretty crazy, diving really deep into it. And I started building my own. And so when I asked Matt, I was like, hey, do you think people are going to be interested in kind of seeing my second brain? Matt was like, yeah, sure. Show it to us. So anyway, let me, hopefully you guys are also interested in it just as much as Matt. Maybe Matt's just trying to be nice to me. Because I literally keep bugging everybody with the same the same thing. But let me okay. So let me show you my second brain. Right, it's not just any sort of a thing out there. This is my second brain, guys. This is what it looks like. This is a collection of notes that I've put together that essentially are kind of built out into this particular framework. Right. So, and I guess before we talk about the second brain, I need to mention. What's exciting about it? It kind of changes, like it updates your firmware, right? We talk about updating your firmware right here. When we think of organization, we think of folders, right, Matt? We think of categories. So there's a folder, there's a subfolder, there's a subfolder. We're like, oh, this is structure, this is organization. Oh wow, our brain struggles with that. In fact, they're saying that companies that bring too much structure in their processes kind of kill creative component of it. Your brain is creative. Your brain is chaotic. Your brain is, and there's nothing wrong with it, right? You just need to, it's organic, right? It kind of develops as, with you as you grow. So do not be afraid of chaos. In fact, embrace it, because that's where all the best ideas coming from. So folders, categories, right? That's one way to organize things. The other way to organize it is links. And this is exactly how our brain is set up. So look at my second brain. And again, it probably makes no sense. It makes no sense to me. I have seen this graph only like twice. But it's essentially kind of like a highlight of what I've been writing about, which, by the way, I'm writing a book. I'm going to tell you a little bit more just in a split second here. So what I've been kind of making notes about and writing about, and then you can see these dependencies, like interdependencies, right, between certain things. And then you can kind of start like looking at it. It's organic. I mean, when I look at it, for some reason, I can't help it. But even in the way it's being set up, like in its shape, like it reminds me of like these neurons, right? Neurons, like the brain cells. There's some sort of interconnectivity here that we don't even understand. Look, I mean, it even looks like a brain, right? What am I missing? Like, am I the only one who's excited about it? This is super boring stuff. But like, and I've heard so much about it, and I've seen these graphs, and this is a very simple graph, by the way. I've seen guys, I mean, people who write books and stuff like that, I mean, they're bottomless a container of knowledge. You know, their graphs like this, second brains, they're so sophisticated. But once you start working on it, it's exciting. Like all of a sudden, I'll tell you more about it next time. Maybe we'll record like a separate video about it. How when you put a note out there, you got to link it to a particular subject that it's all about. Or even better way to do it is to link it to a particular project you're working on. Then when you pull a note containing this project, all the 5 books you've read about it, all the podcasts that you've listened about it, all the quotes, all the people that you've had conversations with, it's all there, but you never put it there. So you read a book, you say, oh, this has to do with growth mindset. Then you go into the growth mindset note. You've got 5 books, 7 articles, 3 podcasts, conversation with Matt, some quotes, your thoughts when you were taking a shower because you took time to put it down. You've got it all there. All you have to do at this point is just organize it. You've got a piece of content. You've got an article. You've got something that you can structure and you can actually share with other people. So guys, this is fascinating, and I know I'm doing a pretty poor job as far as selling it to you how wonderful it is. It is wonderful. So the application that's called that I'm doing this with is called Obsidian. There are a couple of other ones. Rome Research is one of them. Obsidian is better. Just listen to me. Just trust me. Obsidian is better. But try both and see which one you like. And I'm just thinking about the implications. Matt, what's your thoughts? Okay, so second brain knowledge. What if we organize? What if we do something like that at an organizational level? Is there value there?
I think there's definitely value there, and it could get tricky, right? When you're talking inside of an organization, and how does that kind of neural map look like, and other people follow along, right? But if you're familiar with it, right, on where some of this is, where those connections are, I think there's massive opportunity there. I'm with you. Like, I feel like our brains are very much like computers, right? Where you've got memory. Some people are better at accessing long-term type things. Some people are better at cramming kind of like RAM type memory, right? If you're good at like crashing for that test the night before, right? You'll load it in there, but then maybe a couple days later, like it's completely gone. Some people are faster at it. Some people are more linear in their thinking and in their speaking, right? The way artists think, right, and speak can be very different than, let's just say, a professional speaker, right, that's used to discussing very in a linear manner there. But no, I absolutely struggle with this. And hey, new economy again as well too here, right? You're not always going into the office. Maybe you don't have this nice, 10 by 10 foot cubicle with all of these filing cabinets to keep track of all this paperwork, right? The world's gone more digital, but sometimes we don't want to go digital all the way. But hey, if you're ever going to access this information again, how are you going to take it with you, right? When you're traveling out to Yosemite, right, working remote, how do you take all that with you, right? Like, I've got sticky notes right here, right? Like just little quick type things. And it's information. Like, what am I going to do? Am I going to like put it in this folder here and like then what do I do with it, right? How am I going to take that with me? So,
And
I love to use.
what you wrote out there, that piece of information could be so beneficial once you bring it to, say, a group. They're like, Matt, this is exactly what we've been looking. Great. Brainstorming, guys. So here's one of the implications as far as second brains. Brainstorming is highly inefficient way to generate ideas. If every single person in the room has their second brain, they don't need to be creative all of a sudden, right? They don't need to be drinking coffee. They don't need to be stimulating their creative juices, whatever. They just need to look through their second brain and say, you know what? I've thought about it 2 weeks ago. Here's my note on this. Oh, hey, I was taking a shower and I made a little note. I was having a conversation with Matt. Matt gave me an idea. Shoot, I wrote it down. Guys, here's what it is. And if you are so efficient, that if say 5-6 people get in the room and everyone has a way to pull up their best ideas out there, that brainstorming, that's a thing of the past. I think it will be gone because we're all gonna go into the kind of second brain mentality and say, let me look into my second brain. And that thing does a way better job in generating ideas because they're all there. Because when you walk away from a brainstorming session, you've done this before. I know you have, guys. I know you're looking and you're watching and you're listening right now. You have walked away from the brainstorming session. You're like, man, I have another idea. Well, hold on. What happened? Why? What happens to our mind? What happens to our memory? It's highly inefficient. And some of the best ideas, Matt, you wrote one of your best ideas on a sticky note. And it's probably somewhere out there, and it's probably flying up in Michigan's mountains and landed in the lake, and there goes the idea. So that is such a if we could change the world ever so slightly, I think it would be to show people what it is to develop their second brain. It's not hard. It's super easy. It just takes a little bit of kind of like, oh, I get it now. It's kind of like when you look at the clouds, right? You're like, do you see a horse? Do you see a horse in this cloud? And the other person's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. You're totally crazy. But then you see it. But then you're like, you cannot unsee it. That's what it is. That's this whole second brain. You're like, oh, what second brain? What are you talking about? Like, that is, oh my goodness, that graph. I mean, that is crazy. But then you're like, that's the only way how I can make notes and the only way I can ever pull anything from my memory. So we need to devote like a full session on this, guys. And I know it's getting late and it's probably a little too much for you right now. You probably want to just go to sleep and things like that. But guys, this is exciting.
Well, like you said, pulling those ideas, right? Like you see some of the graphics that they have, and you had mentioned of like you're pulling these ideas out. So you're grabbing that particular. I don't know if I should even say topic, right? Because when you start filing things around, sometimes it's just random stuff. But if you actually have a particular topic, right, that you put out there, right, a major topic, a major theme, right, and then you pull it out, right, you get to see all of that context around it. You already have that kind of that infrastructure, that relationship, right, of maybe you've got something on strategy, but you have something on planning as well too, right? So you can pull those out kind of together to see where they're linked at, and build an article off of or create some content like a book there.
Yeah. And here's the interesting part about this application. Like it builds this graph on its own. Like you're not familiar with the graph. Like every time you look at it, you're like, shoot, what is this? But you start looking, for example, I started organizing the books that I've read in the past, few months or so. And all of a sudden I see that this concept leads me to this book leads me to these concepts. And in fact, like this concept is interconnected with these 3 books. You're like Matt said, you start pulling a certain section of your brain, right? And you're like, you didn't even know that it's connected to so many other pieces of knowledge. I mean, if you understand what I'm talking about, like that is just like my mind is blown every single time. Like, because 2 weeks later, I look at this graph and I'm like, what is this? Like I introduce myself. I'm like, hi, my name is Anton. What the hell is your, like, who are you? This is the first time I'm seeing it, but that's my brain, which is fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
That is that's my memories. That's everything I've read, I've learned, and I put it out there. And it's like, hello, well, good to meet you. And let's see. And for the brainstorming, for example, Matt says, hey, what about such and such? And I've got these 17 things that a certain subject, certain project is connected to. And all of a sudden, I don't have to be thinking about it. I know it's there. I know
So
it's connected.
so Anton, take us through that. Was it did you just go kind of on a bender and putting this together, and then it's been kind of coming back to it? Like, how has that gone for you, like process wise, right? Because I think people are, I'm willing to put in time, right, to organize something if it's something I know I'm going
You
to
don't have to.
use, right?
You don't have to put time. See,
So,
that's the thing.
yeah,
It
yeah.
takes the same amount of time, like a split second more. You make a
Mhm.
note like you always do. You just link it to something. You link a particular sentence, paragraph, part of it to a particular subject. That's it. You say, oh, that was related to growth mindset. Bye, close. I'm taking a shower. I'm gone. Thanks, Matt. Good to see you. Bye.
Mhm.
Then when you pull that growth mindset note, it kind of pulls again. I can't help it but to kind of show you this graph. Like it pulls other things with it. I mean, think about it. Okay, we're kind of taking a little more time here, but guys, we probably need to devote like a separate live stream to this because this is like life changing. Like I'm not joking. I really learn a few, really just a few things in my life that are like, shoot, that's upside down. My world is upside down, literally. Like I want to think in about organization, not in terms of categories, subcategories, subcategories. I want to think about it as linking. Like think of if I name a concept right now, Matt, and if I say,
Mhm.
uh, let's say Michigan. Like I just named that one particular concept. How many pieces of data, how many pieces of information are interlinked and interconnected there? Now, is there a structure to those memories? No, but you think of what? Childhood? You think of trips? You think of school? You think of parents? You think of friends? You think of problems? You think of your work? I mean, it's like this. It's literally like this. Like you say, "Hey, Michigan. Hey, Florida. Hey, growth clinic. Hey, I don't know, any sort of concept, any sort of say. Here's the book, the goal, Eliyahu Goldratt. By the way, it's just a great book. It's connected to all these concepts out there, right? And unless you don't think about it, like somehow we're not able to analyze our memory in this visual form, and we have no idea that we've linked it to so many concepts. And in fact, there are so many other books kind of interconnected to this other subject. You're all of a sudden saying, like realizing, shoot, that's my passion. I've been reading about it all along, and it excites me. And all of a sudden, you dive a little deeper and you discover something.
So have you focused on concepts, would you say? Has that been kind of like that starting point? Because I can see how they can branch out to, like you said, some type of concept related to Tennessee, right? And you kind of put Tennessee, and maybe there's a little bit more information about that. And I guess it doesn't really matter if you don't take, let's say, the concept or the topic of Tennessee any further, right? Because it's kind of on the outside of it then, right? So like, have you focused on concepts related to growth mindset, or
Mhm.
like how far have you expanded that universe so far?
So, and again, guys, we can talk a whole lot more about it next time. I know we've been here live for quite some time. So think about actionable things, right? So there's knowledge on one side of the spectrum, knowledge, just pure knowledge. You're learning something. And then there's action on the other side, right? You're just doing. Now, both are important, but if unless knowledge converts into action, what's the point of knowledge? I mean, I've read a great book and it was amazing. Well, that doesn't benefit me or doesn't benefit anybody close to me or my clients or my customers, my people, what's the point then of a knowledge, right? So so the system kind of reminds you of tagging something that's actionable. For example, you're working on 3 projects. You have a short-term goal, you have a mid-term goal, you have a long-term goal. Tag a certain pieces of information that you put out there, a certain piece of knowledge to a particular goal. And all of a sudden, when you pull that goal, you pull all these extra concepts like what it says right here. So that this would be like your short-term goal. You gotta wrap up a particular project, right? And all of a sudden, you've got everything you need. You've learned, you've analyzed, you've put together everything, all the people, all the aspects of it. It's there. And so, I mean, it's the whole point of this is actionable. So you need to be producing something as a result of everything you're learning. And in fact, so that kind of dovetail me, I guess, into breaking the news. is I'm writing a book. Like, what? Like, you asked me 2 weeks ago, you'd be like, you're gonna be writing a book? Like, you're crazy. Like, I actually don't like reading as much. I listen to a bunch of my books, right? I mean, I read a whole bunch of books, but I'm not like, I have to read. I have to consume knowledge. I have to kind of grow. But like, I'm not. Oh my goodness, yeah. But like, I'm reading a book because of the system. Like, the system says, dude, you've got so much, like, a wealth of knowledge. What are you doing with it? And that's a question you're asking yourself every time you look at it. You look at your graph and you're like, it needs to be actionable. And all of a sudden, you tie this to a particular project. And I was like, I just can't help it. But let me create a book to where it's going to have 365 pages. You read a 1 to 2 minute little paragraph that reminds you to be more of a growth-minded person, and drink your favorite beverage in the morning. It is actionable, guys. Okay, Matt. We can talk more about it, and,
All right.
and I know,
I know
guys,
you're excited about it.
if you're
it'll
interested,
be a whole separate episode.
let's devote. If it's interested, I'll keep asking people around us, Matt. Keep asking your folks and see if there's interest in there. I'm seeing that's a big struggle. We're all into just massive amount of like information flow. Like, it's a fire hose of information that's being thrown at us. And what do we do? How do we consume it? Right. So anyway, hopefully this was a little bit of a kind of, maybe we've opened the box, so to say. You maybe haven't gotten much of an answer as to how to do it, but like, we'll focus on that. Read about second brain. I forgot the guy's name. He just wrote a book as well on the second brain. It's pretty good. But yeah, so just keep growing, keep learning, guys. There's more. And don't just settle for something that's kind of midway, halfway there. Please don't. Be great, be awesome, and let's just keep learning together. Because essentially, what we're trying to do here, we're making very, very small incremental steps, Matt and I, into building maybe a larger community of growth-minded people who are looking to expand, learn, grow, and just move forward. Matt, unless you have anything else to add.
Yeah, I think that's a great wrap up there, Anton. There's plenty of topics to talk about here in the future. I'm excited about that one. I'm excited, like you mentioned, like, how does this tie in maybe from an enterprise standpoint as well too, right? So if you're the CFO, I kind of want to know what's maybe going on with marketing, right? And it's like, okay, how is marketing interacting with sales? What are maybe some of those connections there? Like, will you be able to use something like OneNote or Apple Notes, right? And there'll be an option for connectivity there. Because maybe I do want to see it in that kind of hierarchy note type fashion. But then, yeah, I could also see it being turned into kind of that neural network type hierarchy connection as well too there. So yeah, I think it's exciting. Let's keep checking it out and share what we find out.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right, guys, we've been live for quite some time here, just a little over an hour, and I know some of you have been jumping on and off the live stream, but I know most of you guys are watching us post streaming it live, and so if you guys do, thanks a lot for watching. Thank you for getting to the end of it. Matt, as always, it's been great chatting with you. And
it's great seeing you, Anton. Yeah, early happy birthday to you there. Hope you have a good time this week, and hope you make it up to Michigan here sometime there.
I will. Maybe one of those live streams we can stream from your boat in the back.
We'll put together a neural network, right? Michigan, boat,
there you go.
Beaches, restaurants. Let's do it.
There you go. Well, sounds good, guys. Again, thanks a lot for watching. Have a good night. Wish you guys all the best, and stay positive. Keep growing, and we'll see you guys later. See you. Bye.